السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم بعد أن نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها المزمل قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا. Moving forward, inshallah, we, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we were able to finish Makharij al-Huruf last week. And we discussed every single letter from Alif all the way to Ya, and the correct points of articulation, the correct points of makharij, where a letter should come out from within one's body. And this concept is very important, as we discussed, because making sure a letter comes exactly from where it's supposed to come out has a great effect. Can also, in fact, alter letters from being one letter to another letter and completely change the meaning. And especially more important is that when letters are even more closely together in their makhraj, for example, if there are two letters that are very close to each other in the throat, then we have to make sure that their makhrajs are not they're not mixed up or they're not switched, to make sure that the meaning and the exact words or the exact ayahs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say in the Quran, that we make sure that we recite the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as best as we can and as properly as we can. So alhamdulillah, since the beginning we were able to go through all the rules of noon sakin and tanween. We went over all the other rules. We went over mudud, the elongation of certain letters in the Quran. And we finally ended off with makharij al-huruf, how each letter is pronounced exactly and correctly. So inshallah today what we will do is we will do a review of all the letters bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and then moving next week forward, inshallah, we'll have a different format where we won't be sitting on this table, but rather we'll have more of a halaqah sitting. And what will happen is I'll be reciting a surah mainly from Juz Amma, the 30th Juz. And the reason we're choosing the 30th Juz is because many brothers know the surahs that come at the end of the Juz, if not the whole entire Juz. And at least the surahs that we do know, we should be able to recite them perfectly and as best as we can. So we'll start with those surahs, and what will happen is I'll recite those ayahs, and then I will ask another brother to recite them from a few ayahs, the same ayahs that I recite, and what they'll do is they will point out the Tajweed rules, or they'll point out the makhraj, or if somebody makes a mistake in the makhraj, then that'll be fixed. And as for the live stream will only pick up my voice and not anybody else's voice. So that way, nobody feels shy or anything. So inshallah, this is what we'll be implementing from next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And hopefully, inshallah, this brings benefit to everyone, inshallah. So moving forward with the review, the first letter we have is the letter Alif. And the letter Alif is very easy, the letter A, essentially. We discussed how this is the letter of med also. If it comes after a fatha and there is no sign upon the alif, or there's a sukoon on the alif, then it becomes a letter of med. For example, if I have a ya before it with the fatha, I have ya, or ta, we have ta, becomes a letter of med. Or if we have just the letter alif with fatha, we have ayyuha, or ahbabtu, a, and then we have E with kasra, and then U with dhamma. Very basic letter. Inshallah, everybody can do this one. Many people confuse it with not making the sa, or not putting the direct sound of alif. So just make sure that the exact sound of alif is made a, the base sound, the natural sound. Then we have the letter ba. Now ba, as we discussed, is a letter of the lips, right? Ba. I cannot pronounce the letter ba without closing my lips together. Ba, ba, ba. And we also discussed how ba is one of the qalqala letters, right? The letters that we bounce. What are the qalqala letters? They're qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal, qutubu jadin, right? The acronym for these letters. Qutubu jadin, qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal. So whenever any of these letters come with sukoon, we do a bounce on it, right? For example, I have the word ab, ab. Now, the makhraj of ba is from the lips, ab, ab, ab. But since I'm doing qalqala, I have to say ab, ab, abwab. For example, وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا أَبْوَابًا. I'm not saying abwaba, abwaba. This is incorrect because I'm missing the qalqala. أبوابا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا أبوابا. Another mistake that is made in qalqala is that too much qalqala is done. And what happens when too much qalqala is done, that it becomes a fatha, right? Many people say abawaba, abawaba. This is putting fatha on it and it's incorrect. Just a tap, a light bounce or a tap. أبوابا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا. Moving forward, then we have the letter ta, alif ba, and then ta. Ta, as we discussed, is a letter of hams, right? There's a small gasp of air that is released when I make the sound of ta. We also talked about for every single letter in the Arabic alphabet, from alif all the way to ya, to find the exact makhraj of the letter, there's one trick where you take the letter, any letter in the Arabic alphabet, you take the letter, you put sukoon in front of it, and then before it you put an alif with the fatha, right? And then you read that, and that will give you the exact makhraj of any letter. For example, the letter za, az, the letter sin, s. So as we talked about ta being hams, I cannot say at. This is wrong because I'm not doing the hams. I say at. And you can hear the faint gasp of air, the faint release of air that comes when I say the ta. At. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاء. And now this hams also stays when I have it in either fatha or kasra or dhamma form, or even shadda. For example, say at-tawwab, right? Or if I say wafuti, I cannot say wafuti, right? This is incorrect. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاء وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاء. People also make the mistake of saying wafuti, making it a very heavy sound, similar to the letter T in English is incorrect. The ta is a lighter sound than the ta, right? Wafuti, not wafuti or wafudi, right? This is incorrect. وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا Then moving forward, we have the letter tha. We discussed how tha and another letter which will reach tha and dhal have a trick, have a certain characteristic that comes out, a certain characteristic that is needed in order for the tha and the dhal to be pronounced perfectly. And this trick is to put the tongue in between the teeth. Tha and dhal. You want to pronounce this correctly, you put your tongue between your teeth. For example, وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الثَّوَابِ حُسْنُ الثَّوَابِ. Right? I'm putting air through, but my tongue is in between my teeth. وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الثَّوَابِ. Ath. What happens the moment I put my tongue back inside? S. I get seen, right? I get seen. If I took my tongue back inside, I put outside, F. And make sure not to put it too much out, but then because the sound of tha gets sloppy. It's too, that makes it too heavy, right? ثوابا من عند الله والله عنده حسن الثواب. حسن الثواب. Make sure you notice the qalqala at the end that I made as we discussed in Ba. حسن الثواب. And then we have the letter Jim. Jim is also one of the qalqala letters. قطب جد. Jim is there. Jim. Jim comes from closing the teeth. Jim. Jim. And the tongue is sort of pushing against the top of the teeth, right? From the top row of teeth, the tongue is pushing against the top of that. Jim. Jim, right? J is a good reference point to make the sound of Jim. And we discussed how the sound of Jim itself is edge, ejmalu, right? But since it's a letter of qalqala, we say edge. فمن عفا وأصلح فأجره على الله. فأجره. فمن عفا وأصلح فأجره على الله. Not فأجره. فأجره is incorrect. And I can say فأجره. This is also incorrect. فمن عفا وأصلح فأجره على الله. إن الذين كذبوا بآياتنا واستكبروا عنها لا تفتح لهم أبواب السماء ولا يدخلون الجنة حتى يلج الجمل في سم الخياط وكذلك نجزي المجرمين. That's for a jim. Then we have the letter ha. Ha gets particularly tricky because people confuse the letter of ha, which comes from the throat, the middle of the throat. Ha, just above the middle of the throat, and people confuse the letter with the ha. Although their makhrajas are completely very far. Ha comes from the throat, ha comes from the chest. But people tend to confuse them. Why? Because they're interchangeable. They are easier to mix up. Ha. For example, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. حَسَدَ. People say hasad, right? It's a common mistake that people make because the correct pronunciation of ha is not done. Ha is sort of like a breathing sound. When I'm releasing air, ha, right? Make sure not to make it as strong in the when reciting Quran because that's too strong. I cannot say وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ. It's too much. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. Not ha. حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. That's for ha. Jim, ha, and then we have the letter kha. Kha. Another tricky letter. Kha comes from the throat towards right above the middle. Ha, kha. Kha comes right above the makhraj of the letter ha. If this is the back of my throat, ha comes from here, kha comes from here, right, just above it. Kha is sort of the sound when they're coughing, they make this sound like kha. But we have to make sure not to make the kha way too heavy, right? Many people say sanudkhiluhum. This is way too strong, right? Especially if kha has a kasra, then it becomes lighter. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ وَالدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ خَيْرُ not خَيْرُ. This is too much. وَالدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Many people say ka. This is also wrong. That's making it sort of like the kaf, right? Which is incorrect. Kha. وَالدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ khi. From the right above the top of my middle of my throat. وَالدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ. Moving on, we have the letter dal. The letter dal we have comes from da comes from the teeth and the tongue working together, right? Dal, dal. Many people mistake and say da, dal. That's too hard. That's a very hard and heavy dal, right? Which is incorrect. For example, لا أعبد ما تعبدون. لا أعبد. Do. Now, where are my teeth in this? Dal, ad. Oh yeah. Dal is also a qalqal letter, so qutubu jadin is the last of the qalqal letters. We say dal. Whenever there's a sukun on it, we do the light bounce. Ad. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا. I cannot say وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا or أَدْرَاكَ مَا. Incorrect. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ. Ad. So my teeth, my tongue is pushing against the back of my two front teeth on the top row, right? Ad. That's where my tongue is. Ad. لكم دينكم ولي دين. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. Then we have the letter dhal. We discussed how tha and dhal, the trick is to put the tongue between the teeth, right? So we have, for example, let me see if I have an example. Yes. So we have وَأَشْهِدُوا ذَوَيْ, right? Taking the makhraj, we have adh. If you hold it, you get a buzzing sound. Adh. The moment I take my tongue inside, I get az, right? So that's the importance of putting the dhal, because then I just switch it to zai, adh, right? وأشهدوا ذوي عدل منكم وأقيموا الشهادة لله ذو العرش المجيد ذي قوة إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. Then we have the letter ra, dhal, ra. Ra we discussed is a bit trickier because of the different weights. Sometimes ra will be light, ri. Sometimes it will be heavy, ra. The main basic thing to know for now, right, taking the complete basics, ra with the fatha, ra with the dhamma, ru, and is heavy. Ra, ru. I'm not saying ra, I'm not saying du. It's ra, heavy, ru, right? And then if I have a ra with a kasra, ri, it's light. Ri. I'm not saying, I cannot say ri, too heavy. Similarly for ra and ru, I cannot say ra and du, right? That's incorrect because fatha, ra, and dhamma ra, it is heavy. For example, ربنا, when we say ربنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا, right? Ra, I cannot say ربنا, right? That's making it heavy. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا. Then we have رسل ربك, right? Or تلك الرسل. Ra here has dhamma, so it becomes heavy. تلك الرسل. And if I have ra with kasra, I have risala, right? إن الصفا والمروة marwata here, because ra has sukun, so sukun is much more complicated because there are exceptions and such, but here since there's a fatha before, we have marwata. من شعائر الله. It's light. I'm not saying sha'airillah, it's wrong. Sha'airillah. And the next letter we have the letter za. Inshallah, after this letter we'll stop here because it's going to be too much. So inshallah we'll finish up quickly next week, and then we'll move forward with the halaqah sessions bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So ra, and then we have the letter za. Easy letter. You could reference it with the letter z as well. For example, وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ. So inshallah we'll stop here. So it's not too much to go over, because if we finish the whole alphabet, it'll take some time. So we will stop here. Next week, inshallah, as we discussed, we will be doing the halaqah session where I'll be reciting. For example, I'll be saying عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ. Then somebody will recite these same ayahs, right? The first 3 ayahs of Surah An-Naba, the first surah in the 30th juz. And then I'll say, okay, what are the tajweed rules here that we discussed? First we have amma. This is meme with shadda, so we have a gunna, right? Yatasa'alun. Here, there's a mad. So in mad in the middle of the word, so we have mad muttasil. Anin naba'il azim. Here we have noon with shadda, so we have a gunna, right? Azim. Mad arid al-sukun, because it comes at the end of a word and becomes sukun. الذي هم فيه مختلفون. الذي هم, right? This becomes idhar shafawi because I have mim with sukun. الذي هم فيه مختلفون. مختلفون. So inshallah we'll move like this next week after we finish the review. Inshallah, if any of the brothers would like to recite, inshallah we can sit here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.